A car chase with the paparazzi in New York City? Not with that traffic. Coming to paperback and e-readers, John Haynes, 1987. Learn lessons about life and teenage love in the 1980s with this coming-of-age John Haynes story. Pre-order your copy of John Haynes, 1987 at online booksellers everywhere. Prince Harry and the Duchess of Ratchetness, Meghan Markle, say that they were in a car chase with the paparazzi here in New York City. Now, any lifelong resident of New York City, like myself, knows it's near impossible to get into any sort of car chase due to the nature of New York City traffic. However, Prince Harry and his wife, the Duchess of Ratchetness, Meghan Markle, want us all to believe that they got in a near catastrophic car chase for over 2 hours trying to evade paparazzi here in New York City. Now, according to reports on May 17th, Prince Harry and the Duchess of Ratchetness, Meghan Markle, attended an awards event in Midtown Manhattan at the Ziegfeld Ballroom, and the Duchess of Ratchetness was being honored at this event for her global advocacy work empowering women and girls. And as this event ended on 9:50, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex decided to depart the event with their private security team and the Duchess of Ratchetness's mother, Doria Raglan, and as they were trying to get back to where they were staying on the Upper East Side, they didn't want the paparazzi to know the location. And according to one report, 2 uniformed police officers were nearly missed being hit by paparazzi as they left the theater, and as they left the theater, they decided to drive onto the FDR Drive and spent an hour driving in circles between the FDR Drive and West 57th Street before deciding to go and stop at a precinct. And when they stopped at a precinct, that's when they decided to get into a taxi cab. And as they got into a taxi cab, that's when Prince Harry and the Duchess of Ratchetness, Meghan Markle, claimed that they were being pursued by 2 vehicles and that these 2 vehicles came close to the car as they were taking pictures to film them. And they said that they basically were in this cab for only 10 minutes, and as they returned to the precinct, that's when they decided to have the NYPD go and return them safely to the Upper East Side. Now, when I look at this whole event, I don't see the catastrophic event that was claimed by the Duchess of Ratchetness, Meghan Markle, and Prince Harry. No, I basically see a marketing stunt created to try to draw attention to the spare royal and try to create controversy in the aftermath of the spare being an heir nobody cares about. And because nobody cares about the heir, what he hopes to do is create a catastrophic event similar to the controversial one that sadly wound up taking his mother's life back in 1997, because according to Prince Harry, he thinks he's just about as important as King Charles, and he wants to try to generate some sort of attention for himself. Because anybody who lives here in New York City knows that there is no way for you to even have any sort of car chase with paparazzi due to the nature of New York City traffic and the nature of the NYPD. Now, I found a hole in that story when there was a claim that, these paparazzi would have so-called nearly missed 2 uniformed police officers, because if you were to have driven by 2 uniformed police officers here in New York City, those officers would have got on their radio and let other officers know that this vehicle basically was driving erratically, and they would have run out here and put officers out here to deal with that individual. That's what would have happened if they had nearly missed a uniformed officer, and that's why I say there's a major hole in their story, because they would have shut that down as related to that whole incident. Moreover, with a prominent individual like Prince Harry and Meghan Markle attending an event, I would believe that the NYPD would have been there to provide additional security to ensure that a royal would not be harmed and create an international incident. I believe that the security team would have had other officers even on or off duty as part of that detail to ensure that Prince Harry and the Duchess of Ratchetness would have managed to make their way home safely. And again, that's usually the unwritten policy as related to the NYPD, because a lot of off-duty officers would have gone out here and moonlit that event, and they would have moonlit that event because it would have not only meant extra money, but it would have also built up their own reputation if they wanted to go out here and do extra jobs outside of the NYPD. So when I listen to this story, there's a lot of holes in this story that tell me that this was a scripted and orchestrated event. And when I look at the actions here, again, they seem scripted and orchestrated as related to trying to generate the most controversy on media platforms, because anybody who lives here in New York City, and any good driver, would know how these New York City streets work. Moreover, any good vehicles team or of convoy would have had at least one GPS map in them, because New York City streets usually just run one way in many cases, and usually when you're driving on a New York City street, you know where you want to go, and most seasoned drivers know how to evade people like paparazzi, because they know that there are side streets where they can go out here and evade these kinds of vehicles. They would not have been driving around for an hour trying to find a way to get back to this location, because again, the streets usually run one way, uptown and downtown on the east side, from the east side to the west side. And when I listen to this story, again, this is the kind of story that comes from someone who is not a New York City resident. No, this is the type of story that comes from an outsider trying to create a narrative where they try to make it look like there's all this space for a car chase, when there's not much space as related to car chases here in New York, even late at night, because parking is something that's hard to get. And in a lot of cases, there's a lot of vehicles out here double parked, and even in certain cases of Manhattan, triple parked. So it would be nigh impossible for any vehicle to go on any sort of car chase. Even with a taxi cab, it wouldn't have been possible, because you've got large vehicles like buses, you've got large vehicles like FedEx and UPS trucks. Those vehicles are still running until about 10 or 11 o'clock at night. So that's why I say that there's a lot of holes in this story. And this story basically sounds like a scheme created by the Duchess of Ratchetness, Meghan Markle, to come up with a way to get attention for Prince Harry and herself before the spare winds up like a spare pair of skid mark jockey drawers tossed into the washing machine and set up to take a long wash on the road to being washed up. And that's basically what's happening here with the skid mark jockey drawers of Prince Harry and the skid mark jockey thong of the Duchess of Ratchetness, Meghan Markle. They're looking to try to extend the attention they receive before they become ancillary royals like Sarah, the Duchess of York, and Prince Andrew. These are the kind of royals, while yes, they're royal, nobody really cares about them. And nobody cares about them because they do not have a direct line to the monarchy, and they do not have a direct line to the crown. And with the coronation of King Charles, most people aren't really concerned about the royal family here in America, that outside of Prince William and Kate Middleton and the former King Charlie's supermarket, now known as the National Action Network on West 145th Street, until King Charles comes to reclaim the King Charlie supermarket on 145th Street and Lenox Avenue, I believe. No one really cares about the Duchess of Ratchetness, Meghan Markle, and Prince Harry, and this is a desperate attempt to try to get attention for themselves by trying to make an event similar to the one that sadly took the life of Princess Diana. And this is again a low point for the Duchess of Ratchetness, Meghan Markle, and Prince Harry, because you're trying to mirror an event similar to the tragedy that took the life of Prince Harry's mother. And again, this is a low point as related to marketing stunts, and really, again, absolutely low, and as I see it, just desperate for attention. Because again, anybody who lives here in New York City knows, again, how crazy New York City traffic is. Moreover, anybody who lives here in New York City knows how slow New York City traffic is, even at night. As someone who has lived in New York City for 50 years, I can tell you that New York City traffic is not one where you can get into a chase, with many streets in New York City being extremely narrow, and with many streets barely having one lane of traffic, and sometimes two at max. If there aren't parked cars on the street, there's not much room for anybody to get close to a taxi cab the way Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are claiming, because what they're trying to claim is that the city streets are like highways. And again, if officers saw vehicles coming out of the lanes, and we have lots of officers parked in vehicles all over the place here, and cameras everywhere, somebody would have caught these vehicles and caught their plates as they were looking to take these pictures. But I find it interesting that they got into this cab and then went right back to the NYPD. And again, they could have avoided all of this by going and working with law enforcement. And law enforcement, whether they be moonlighting cops or cops on duty, they would have gotten prominent people like members of the royal family to their residence securely had they followed a logistics plan with the city. Now, there were no injuries reported, no collisions reported, no injuries at all, and that's where everybody has an issue with the Duchess of Ratchetness, Meghan Markle, and Prince Harry, as related to their car chase. They have issues with them because, again, if there was a car chase, there would be police reports filed by those officers as related to that first incident that allegedly took place as they allegedly tried to run past those uniformed officers outside of the event. That would have been the first police report filed as related to that event, and once that was reported, the officers would have swarmed the area, and all of those paparazzi wouldn't have gotten any pictures. No, they would have been taking them at a central booking for going out here and participating in an assault on a police officer. That would have happened, but we have the Duchess of Ratchetness, Meghan Markle, and Prince Harry trying to create a story where there was none, and trying to create drama where there is none, because there's no more dirty laundry for the spare to air. He can't get access to his father's, King Charles' skid mark jockey drawers anymore, and he can't get any of Camilla's skid mark jockey thongs. So since he cannot get any more access to the dirty underwear, he's now gone to pulling these attention-seeking stunts, and it just shows how desperate and pathetic Prince Harry and the Duchess of Ratchetness is, and how low they'll go in a ratchet scheme to get attention. Again, this whole event is one of the saddest ones I've seen, talking about paparazzi looking to get pictures of a spare heir where there's no story anybody cares about anymore. I mean, no one cares about the spare, but the spare wants us to think that they can get us scared to care about the heir nobody cares about. Now, if you want to pick up some of my positive black fiction on the SJS Direct imprint, like the ISIS series, the E-Steam series, the John Haynes series, and the books of the Spinsterella trilogy, you can find all those books on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find those books at other online booksellers like Smashwords, the iBookstore, and Google Play. And if you'd like to see me make more videos like this, you can send a donation to the Patreon, the PayPal, or the Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and e-readers, John Haynes' Godbreaker. The man who rules the world takes on the Asgardian god of thunder in this action-packed, all-new John Haynes series adventure. Get your copy of John Haynes' Godbreaker in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers everywhere.